Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast, as we are going to be shifting gears a little bit into the MLB. We just talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to be sticking in Pittsburgh with the Pirates because last night Paul Skenes made his first start post All-Star break, where he was the starter in the All-Star game, and he ended up pitching a career-high 8 1/3 innings in what ended up being the first loss of his career so far. 2 starts in a row where he has not gotten very much run support. This game was just coming off of the outing that he had before the All-Star break, where Skenes was shoving a no-hitter through the first 7 innings, and Pittsburgh manager Derek Shelton ended up facing a lot of backlash because he decided to pull Skenes from that outing. At that point, though, it was a 1-0 game, sort of similar to the situation last night where there was not very much offensive production from this Pittsburgh lineup, and ultimately he did decide to let Skenes roll in this one. And I was really glad, at least for the 8th inning, that we were able to see him there. And I still thought it was cool that we saw him in the 9th, but I thought that it was going to be a situation where we did see him get pulled at that last minute because of the fact that when we were going into the 9th inning, it was a 1-1 ball game. We saw the Pirates able to score their 1 run of the evening in the bottom of that 8th. So ultimately, there was a little bit of momentum going on. It seemed like it could have been an incredible opportunity for Skenes to get his first ever complete game. Now, ultimately, that didn't end up being the case. He allowed a leadoff double in that 9th inning that ended up coming back to hurt him. And ultimately, Alec Burleson was able to drive in Siani, who has just a ton of speed, and it ends off on a little bit of a sour note for what was an incredible showing for him. But still, Skenes has nothing to feel bad about. His final line: 8 1/3 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts, 4 hits, 0 walks, and 2 earned runs. It was Nolan Arenado that got the best of him in the 5th inning, where he went yard there for a solo shot. And again, it was just sort of 2 bad pitches, is I believe the way that Shelton specifically described it. It was the one in the 5th to Arenado, and it was that one in the 9th inning for Siani to get the double. Now, initially, it was a pretty close play as well in that 9th inning where Siani was coming into second base, and ultimately, Reynolds got a really good throw in. The umpire initially called Siani out at second, but ultimately they reviewed it. It was overturned, and then again, with the top of the lineup coming out, Burleson was just able to drive him in, and that ended the night for Skenes in what is another chapter in what has been extremely impressive up to this point. It actually raised his ERA slightly. He's rocking a 1.93 ERA so far this season. Just incredible numbers across the board. Where you want strikeouts, he'll give you 11.7 per 9. His whip is sub 1, just .871. Everything that you could really ask of him, he has. Now, the long ball has been what has hurt him. 1 home run per 9. Not that that's a crazy number by any means, but when we've seen Skenes get hurt, it is by that long ball, which tends to happen sometimes when you are a strikeout pitcher. But what was crazy to me last night about his performance was the fact that he was kind of, despite the fact that he had the 8 strikeouts, and it didn't really feel like it was one of those dominant, Skenes is striking everybody out. He got out of a number of different innings on a pretty low pitch count. I think that he was headed into 90 pitches going into that 9th inning. I mean, he was cruising from a pitch count perspective while also maintaining those high strikeout numbers. I believe out of his 12 starts. It's something along the lines of he's struck out at least 7 batters in 11 of those. So he just continues to be so impressive, as the Pirates are, a fun team this year. They're 51-50. They are a couple games back out of the wild card spot. Unfortunately, a tough team to blow it to, where they are competing with the Cardinals for some of those final wild card spots. As things currently stand, the Pirates are 1.5 games behind the Mets for that final spot. Obviously, a lot of season to go. Will be important to see. I think they're actually playing right now, if I'm not mistaken. The Pirates are up 5-0 right now on the Cardinals in the top of the 8th inning. So the Pirates, again, I said this when we were coming out of the All-Star break, I'm just hoping to see them playing meaningful baseball down the stretch of the year. Pirates are a team that I feel like could be a little bit of America's team vibes, just in terms of the fact that it's an organization that is a small market that has been, it seems like at least these past couple years showing this early promise early on, and you get excited about them, and it's been sort of dwindling away. But where the Pirates currently are with the rotation that they currently have, obviously dealing with a little bit of injuries on that front, but they are going to be a player down the stretch of this year. Now, obviously, we've talked about it before, the dynamic bats are kind of what they're missing, so I am curious to see. I mean, we hear so much about these big market teams, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, the Dodgers. Are these the types of teams that are going to go out and buy? I feel like the Pirates would be an interesting conversation to sort of slide in there as well. Now, I'm not saying that I expect that out of them by any means, but it would be a very interesting thing to see how it plays out. Just imagine, out of all of these teams that are clamoring for the likes of a Vladimir Guerrero Jr., if he just ends up on the Pirates, I mean, that would, I think, make them, one of the most fun teams, considering the fact that they have all of these starting pitcher arms outside of O'Neal Cruz. And yes, they still do have other good players, don't get me wrong, but they don't necessarily have quite as much of these young bats that get you extremely excited. Nick Gonzalez is in the midst of having a very nice season as well. He was actually the one. He came up short earlier in the game yesterday in a bases loaded situation where he grounded out, and the Pirates weren't able to score then. But in the 8th, it was him who stepped up big for them, and was able to drive in their one run of the game. Just 25 years old, so promise there. Would be nice to see if Davis was ever able to get himself together. Where Davis was the number 1 overall pick in 2021. I can double check that. No, 2000, sooner than that. It was 2021. Henry Davis was the first overall pick, and he just hasn't really been available for them in the majors because of his struggles. He is somebody that if he were to emerge for the Pirates, it would be a big time revelation as to what the future of the franchise looks like. But that just hasn't really been the case. He's currently in the minors right now, and still young. I believe just 24 years old, but turning 25 soon. Would love to see him round the corner for the Pirates. But let me know what your thoughts are on the Pirates' postseason chances, and whether or not you see them being able to put together any type of a run. But we're going to be taking our final break of the show, and when we come back on the other side, we have some recent developments in the ongoing media rights negotiations with the NBA, where TNT is trying to make a final push to keep themselves on the air, the beloved Inside the NBA, trying to stay alive here. So we will dive into all of that. But first, our last break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.